Hey FlossTube, welcome back to the Basic Book Club. It's October, and we finished our book. Woohoo! I'm Jorden, and I'm on Instagram at JordanXStitch.
And I'm Jami, and I'm on Instagram at JamiXStitch.
And this month we read the book, The Last Lie Told by Debra Webb. While we talk about the book, we're going to stitch. I am working on The Sunnyside Sampler by The Drawn Thread.
And I'm working on Gone Batty by Brenda Gervais. And I'm just going to be filling in black.
And before we start talking about the book, know that if you have not read the book, there will be spoilers. There is a twist at the end, so if you don't want that spoiled, don't keep listening until you finish the book.
Yeah, if you need to... Or so the book, we don't ruin it for you.
Yeah.
Listen or read the book before you continue listening to the rest of this FlossTube. Stitch with me, FlossTube.
Yes. So, Mom.
Jorden.
What were your thoughts on the book?
I struggled. Flat out, hands on. Now let me just say, Jorden had me pick this month's book because she picked the first one, which was The Last Mrs. Parrish, which had some rough moments to read, but was actually a really good book. But I some people had reported to us that there was some triggering type things in it for them, and that I completely understand.
There was a little bit in this book too, but it wasn't quite to the same level.
But I also enjoyed that book a lot more. This book, I struggled. The character stuff, like there was a lot more characters, keeping track of characters, the pacing. The last book took off right from the beginning and kept my interest the entire time. This one, I had to say, oh, I need to read or I need to listen, because I did a combination of both. Yeah, and it's, I don't know, what's your initial off the bat?
I didn't like this book. Right. Truthfully, if we didn't have the obligation of like talking about it and doing the video, I probably just wouldn't have finished it.
Yeah, it wasn't really my cup of tea.
It had some like good parts to it.
Right.
But it was slow to start, and there was, I don't know, the characters weren't my favorite, which I think part of it, because like I know a lot of people didn't like the characters in The Last Mrs. Parrish, right?
Well, yeah,
because
but the characters were
totally
developed
unlikable.
Well. Right, but they were very well developed characters.
These characters didn't feel human, and obviously like they're fake, but well-written characters you can like
relate to, you can have empathize for, and
and these ones I don't know, they didn't feel.
I already have knot problems.
I just couldn't jive with them, so it wasn't my favorite book.
Right.
There were also a lot of characters to keep track of.
Right. Do you feel like some of them were pointless characters?
Yeah. Several of them. And I get that, like, I do think that it was good, because it is like a murder mystery type story.
Right.
And so I do think it was good to have, like, some red herrings in there, like, oh, could this be the suspect? Could this be the bad guy? Oh, wait, that character doesn't actually connect to it at all. Like, I do see the value in having characters like that. But, I don't know, man. I was having a really hard time getting through it until, like, the last 15 minutes of the book. And then I was like, oh, stuff's happening. And then I was like, oh, okay, it's over now. I feel bad that I didn't love it, but
Well, and that's funny because when we were just last weekend, we were at Stitch West, which is the retreat in Salt Lake by Snug Harbor Crafts, hosted it, and it was fantastic. But while we were there, we met a couple readers who had enjoyed the book and
yeah.
and had ordered. I can't remember if she had ordered or pre-ordered anyway the second book, because there's another book in the series, and they want to know our thoughts and opinions, what we and stuff. And neither Jordan or I had finished it at that point, so we couldn't say, but they loved it and skimmed right through it, versus both of us struggled to want to even continue with it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, just everybody has their own point of view, and that's, I think, partially what's good about a book club.
Yeah. I think the theme of it was fun for like murder mystery for October and Halloween and everything. And I liked the relationships of some of the characters. Like, so Finley, the main character, has her, what am I doing here? What?
Sometimes stitching and talking is hard, just so you know. I already have another knot. What have you got going on?
I just was miscounting because a thread was like going under one of the threads of the fabric.
Oh, okay. Finley
has her godfather, who she's named after and everything, and they seem to have a pretty good relationship. And I liked that there was a good relationship there, and obviously it was more like father-daughter relationship stuff.
Yeah.
But because her husband had died, there wasn't really any kind of romance, which
could have softened the novel a little bit too.
Yeah. But it was kind of nice with everything that was going on to not have that mixed in with it too.
That's true, but still it could have, I don't know. And not that I need like ooey gooey whatever, but it could have done something else.
Yeah. It just, that would have just been more like to keep track of. I will say, however, there were a lot of plots that got totally missed and never talked about again.
Which I wonder if they will in the second one. So you can mention them, but then maybe if someone reads the second one, they can let us know.
Yeah. So there is a second book. I don't remember what it's called. I'll put the picture in here. I don't plan on reading it.
I probably won't myself.
But I'm wondering if it picks up more on like all the stuff with her husband Derek. Because like, why was he lying?
Okay, so, and he had passed away.
Yeah, he was murdered in like a year before this book started.
Right. But there was other stuff that come out in the book, and it's like, yeah, wonder why he's lying.
Yeah, and so like there's the whole thing with, and maybe I just totally missed it, because I will say I don't pay attention as well to audiobooks, and I was listening to this one. But Finley, at the beginning was like being interrogated or something because she had been at like a convenience store when it got robbed, and the owner of the convenience store had shot the perpetrator. And he was about to say that he knew her. And she mentions that he was like one of the 3 guys from like that night that her husband was murdered. And then I felt like that just kind of got dropped. And I assumed that Charlie Holmes, the like big bad guy that was in jail, had something to do with that. But that whole plot line, I felt like just got completely dropped. And it was very confusing to me.
Well, and then there was more where you said about the buying of the house.
So then there was also the whole plot line of Derek, her husband, who had been murdered and everything, so she couldn't ask him about it. But he bought their house 2 weeks before they even met. and claimed that he was buying it for, sorry, I have to count, for his wife.
Because that was the house she wanted, but they hadn't even met.
What did I do? Oh, I came up through the middle of that X. But they hadn't met, but he's like, yeah, my wife saw this house and loves it. And this guy was flipping it and was like, no, I'm not going to sell it. And Derek just kept offering more money until he was willing to sell. Which, man, I wish I could do that, but...
Well, and it was still in remodel type.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he bought it and I guess finished it. And they lived there for their marriage. But he had told her this whole story about how he had been remodeling this house. And then, like, she moved in when they got married and stuff. And everyone else, like, got a different story than she did. And I'm just confused as to why he lied.
Right.
And there was something buried in the backyard, but she, like, was going to go dig it up. And then something else happened. And so she never could dig it up. And I'm just like, what? What was the point of this plot line? Because it never got resolved.
It's just all this added. That's what I talk about. That, which that's where I wonder if it will come out in the second book.
Yeah.
If those are open-ended for that purpose. But if they don't come out in the second book, then seriously, why?
But it also wraps up, like, so at the end...
Well, the whole thing is this long...
So she's investigating the murder of... Kind of. The murder of this big, like, record deal guy. But the guy who had gone to jail for it 5 years ago was like, I didn't actually murder him, even though he had confessed. So, like, okay, whatever. So she's, like, trying to investigate to figure out what really happened. Which is fun. And, like, there's all the different people that she talks to and all the different suspects and stuff. But she also, like, shouldn't have been able to do any of that. Because she legally couldn't practice law because she had had her license, like, on probation. Because she had a mental breakdown in court.
Oh, yeah, that was at the... Okay.
And so, like, in real life, and I get that this is a book, in real life, none of the stuff that happened in this book, like, could have happened. Because there's just so much red tape. And I know, because I looked up reviews because I was like, I gotta know if it, like, gets better. Because there's some books, like, one book that comes to my mind is The Host by Stephanie Meyer. The first 100 pages of that book are
That was
boring,
hard to get through.
But once you get through that, it's so good.
Right. But you have to endure and get past that. So, yeah, I kind of wondered if this was going to be like that one or not.
I started looking up some reviews and stuff because I was like, well, if I can find, like, book discussion questions, book club discussion questions, then I can kind of keep, like, in my
things in mind while you're
what
reading.
I should be reading, you know, or what I should be thinking about while I'm reading it. Couldn't find anything like that, which, no big deal. But then I was looking at reviews because I'm like, it's got to get better. Because it just, I wasn't enjoying it. And I wanted to have hope. And there were several people that were really frustrated by the lack of knowledge of the justice system that the author seems to have.
She didn't do her homework on some of this.
Some of it, like, Finley, especially being a lawyer who cannot practice law, would not have been able to just walk into a jail, a prison, and have appointments with or meet with their, like, highest security inmate.
Right.
And she wouldn't have been able to just sneak in and be the nurse for when he had, like, his back was hurting or something.
Right. No, like, this was total,
which is
accurate,
fine.
just
it's
complete.
It's not real life, it's a book.
Right, and that's kind of how I think about TV shows and different things at times, too. It's entertainment, it's just a book.
Yeah. So, like, that's not a
Or
huge
just a
deal.
TV show.
But there were some moments, like, that when she was faking as the nurse, that I'm like, oh, okay, this might be stretching it a little bit. But I can't remember what I was saying. Oh, just the...
That you was reading up to find out if it got any better.
And on Goodreads, which is an app that people talk about books, it's like a social media, but just about books.
Right.
It's great. And so I was looking on there, and this book has like 16,000 reviews and has an average 4-star out of 5-star rating.
Which is pretty dang good.
Yeah. But all the reviews I was reading that are recent were like 3 stars or less. And I was like, oh, that's weird. But some of them made pretty accurate points to my thoughts.
I'm intrigued.
One being like the whole legal stuff.
Yeah.
A few people talked about just the writing in general, how they didn't like, which that's kind of a style choice.
Yeah, well, everybody likes and dislikes different writing styles,
Yeah.
right?
But I did feel like there were points where, because like, anytime you're doing creative writing or anything like that, like for a class, because I've only really done it in classes, a teacher will tell you to show the reader, not tell the reader. Like, it's always supposed to be show, not tell.
Let the reader come to their own thoughts and conclusions.
Yeah, so it's right? Like, show the reader how someone is reacting or what the character is seeing or whatever. Don't tell them what they should be interpreting that as. You know, so show the reader that a character is crying. Don't tell them that they're sad. And I feel like this writer does a lot of telling.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of...
that's interesting that you say that, because as you're describing it, I'm understanding that more and more. That is this type.
She definitely, which that is somewhat personal preference, but it did kind of drive me nuts that it was... Everything was told to us very directly. So it was like, I didn't have a chance to try to like put pieces together, I guess, because there was nothing like left to the imagination.
Right.
And especially in like a thriller like this with a twist at the end, I think it's better in general to do a lot of showing and very little telling, because you want the reader to stay intrigued and be like, oh, what's going to happen? Am I interpreting this right? Like, what clues am I missing? The other thing writing wise that people also had said on Goodreads that I agreed with is that the characters all felt very unnatural.
Yeah, we kind of hinted about that or talked about that a little earlier on, that we just wasn't into the characters as well.
I don't know if it's the way they said things or the way they reacted to things, or maybe it's because I was told how they reacted to things, not like shown how, like maybe it's a little bit of a mix of that, but I just felt like they were all on a very, I don't know, they didn't feel not supernatural, but like they didn't feel like natural
real
people.
Yeah.
Which again, they're characters, but in a good story, you can relate to the characters.
Yes, you can feel with them, and you get to learn to know how they're going to react to information given to them, because you get to know your characters as the characters are developed.
But I can also, like, to think about it, I can understand why some things are the way they are. I understand why Finley is so cold and unfeeling.
Well, some of the stuff she's been through.
Because, like, only a year ago, her husband was murdered.
Right.
She was assaulted in that same event. And then she went back to work, had a mental breakdown, and was barred from practicing law. Like, she's been through some heavy stuff.
Right.
And so I understand why she is, like, cold. And because of her career and, like, being a lawyer and everything, she's like, I just have to be able to read people. And so as people are saying things, she's determining, oh, they looked away from me, so that must be a lie. And so I understand why some of, like, the telling happened versus the showing, because we were getting, like, the characters' assumption.
Yeah, as she was trying to read a person, that's why we were getting some of the telling. She was reading them.
Yeah. But I don't know. It just, like, it all kind of came together in a perfect storm that just didn't jive for me. The other thing I learned is that Debra Webb, the writer, which I don't want it to sound like I'm bashing the writer.
Not by any means.
But she has written over 150 books.
Right.
Which means I bet she has at least one book that is better than this one. For me.
Well, and it might be a different subject matter that we might find more enjoyable to read as well. Because every author has different styles of books.
Yeah. And, like, some of my favorite writers, I don't like some of their books. So, like, I don't know. And maybe it was timing. Maybe it was a lot of things. This one just didn't do it for me.
Right. Do you want to talk a little bit about the
twist?
The twist, the wrap up? Because that was the most entertaining part.
Yeah. So I was driving here and finishing the book, listening to it while we were driving. Because I'm a slacker. Actually, we were just really busy getting ready for Stitch West.
We were, and then even just the week home. Well, can I tell them one thing about yesterday?
What was yesterday?
Yesterday we were both at home doing things. I was cleaning my house.
Oh, and we FaceTimed for 3 hours?
You were mailing out orders and doing business stuff. And the entire time we were FaceTiming. And then afterwards I'm like, oh, we should have been listening to the book instead of talking for 3 hours.
Yeah. But it was also the last day that you got to be home. The last, like, work day that you weren't working before you started your new job. So right. It was the last chance we had to do that.
I know. It's fine. But anyway. So you was finishing it up on the way here.
And so I was, like, listening, and like I said, I don't pay attention as well when I'm listening to books, especially when I'm also driving and also have kids in the back which I had my headphones in, but I had, like, the transparency mode on so that I could still hear everything around me. But there was just a lot going on.
Well, yeah, you had a dog, a husband, and 2 kids.
And my son got carsick partway through, and so, it was just a nightmare. So,
but the end of the book.
I'm listening to the end of the month, end of the book, and
you said the end of the month.
Yeah, I did. Okay. So it got kind of intense because these twins that are the daughters of the guy that was murdered, turns out,
dun dun dun,
not twins. They're the same person. Unless I totally missed what was going on. Because I was confused.
And it was just the reveal of a wig.
Yeah. The twin that had dyed her hair blonde was just wearing a wig. And apparently this girl who had been treated for borderline personality disorder since she was like 12, then her dad got murdered and she developed dissociative identity disorder. And she blamed her, like, twin that she had created in her head as the person who killed them, or killed the dad and the mom. And, truthfully, I don't understand dissociative identity disorder very well at all. I do follow a few people on, like, YouTube and stuff that have it, and their, like, mental systems and all the people who live in in their head and everything, it's fascinating.
Right.
But it's just something that, like, I, having never experienced it, cannot wrap my head around. Like,
no, but
I can't understand it.
It is fascinating in a weird way.
But I want to, and so if I, say anything that doesn't actually make sense, it's just because I don't quite understand, and I can't. I've tried.
Can't process it.
But she had, like, developed this twin in her head, and so they were, like, at war with each other basically the whole time in her head, which is awful. Like, to try to think of being at war with yourself 24/7 and blaming yourself for your dad dying and all this stuff. But then Finley, like, talks her down and is like, hey, it's okay. Don't shoot this lady that you're holding hostage. Because, don't do that. That's not cool. And so she, like, surrenders the gun to Finley. And then Finley starts putting the pieces together that Cherry, the lady who had been taken hostage, is actually, dun dun dun, Charlie, the evil guy that's sitting in jail's sister. And they're like buds, and he was covering up for her because she was the murderer all along. And all of this happened in like 15 minutes. And it was a lot.
And then all of a sudden it's over.
And I think part of what was confusing is that, like, Finley is talking to Cecilia and Olivia at the same time. And she can somehow tell which one she's talking to. But I don't know how. But so, like, she's talking to both of them. And I just got confused. And it's fine. I was also dealing with a lot. But then she, like, goes home to her house, which she calls the murder house, which is awful.
Right, to think that that's what your home is.
Like, she just refers to her home as murder house. And I understand not wanting to leave the house that she and her husband lived in because he died. I also would understand if she wanted to leave the house that he was murdered in and she was assaulted in and never see it again. But the fact that she lives there and refers to it as murder house is hilarious.
I see it and I'm like, oh, that's not cool. Because your home should be your peace and serenity, right? So to think that is like,
So she goes back to murder house and is just, like, chilling and drinking a lemonade or something. And then her godfather comes over and finally starts repainting her house, which he had promised to do.
Right.
And it just ends all peaceful and happy like that. And I was like, but wait,
there's
what
more.
about the husband and his death? And, like, what? So, anyway.
And maybe, like, because it is a book that it has the second, maybe all that will be answered.
I hope so.
Maybe when they're painting the house, they'll dig up whatever's in the backyard.
It was interesting. There were a lot of turns that I didn't expect to get taken. Like when, I think her name was Sonia, the twins' mom, when she was murdered.
I think you're right.
I was like, whoa, wasn't expecting that. But also kind of was, because she had gone to the jail and the guy in the jail was like, you're marked, which was weird. And that whole thing was weird. There were just a lot of things that didn't come together for me. If I missed things, please tell me, because I feel lost.
No, I agree with you. But I also agree with you, though, that when I was listening to it, because I was listening versus reading, I was struggling with listening to it. And it wasn't keeping my attention.
Yeah.
But look what I've done here. Somehow, in stitching this little line, my yellow is coming out.
Oh, no.
I got to figure that out, or take it out and restitch that yellow for the eyeball.
Well, I think this is where we'll leave it.
Yeah, because really, it's if it was something we liked, I think we could go on more.
But I feel bad just sitting on here bashing the book.
Well, and like I said, because we do know other people that enjoyed the book.
Yeah. I'm really curious for people who are listening and who are going to comment and talk to us about the book. Number one, if I got things wrong and I misunderstood or missed things, please explain them to me if you can in a YouTube comment, because I would love to understand it better.
Right.
Number two, I would love to know, were you trying to like figure it out along the way? Because I definitely was, and just wasn't doing a good job of it. But were you right? Did you see the twist coming? What was there a favorite character or favorite part? Especially if you really liked it. I want to know.
Yeah, it would be nice to hear another point of view of someone who did really enjoy it.
Yeah.
And because even though, like I said, that we met ladies at the retreat that had read it, we didn't really discuss it with them.
Yeah, because we hadn't finished it.
So and they liked it, so it'd be nice to hear their point of view.
Yeah. And then last thing, I guess, before we finish, is the book for November.
Oh, yes. Which you just told me the name.
But... Yes. So this book has been on my to-read list for a while. It comes highly recommended. But so did this one. So, you know. Who knows? It is called The Keeper of Happy Endings. It is by Barbara Davis.
I think that's what I said. I'm looking at
it. It is a historical fiction, so we're taking a little bit of a detour from our thrillers that we've read the past 2 months. And I'm very excited about it.
Yes, Barbara Davis. The Keeper of Happy Endings right there is a picture.
So it will be linked below on our... in the description. The top link will be for the book on Amazon. It's on Kindle Unlimited. It's on Audible, and I'm sure like it's a pretty popular one. I'm sure you can get it pretty much anywhere that sells books.
Right. Well, and Overdrive and any of which Overdrive's not Overdrive anymore. It's now Libby. It wasn't Overdrive. Yeah, it was. Anyway, any of the apps that you can listen to or get books from, hopefully it's available there.
Yeah.
But we'll list
We're trying to make sure that books that we pick are widely accessible and available.
Yeah. And we feel like, love them or hate them, we feel like Amazon is widely accessible and available.
Yeah. Well, Amazon did start as a bookstore, which I often forget.
Right?
So anyway, we will have the link to that in the description box. Please read along with us. The last book, or the last day of the month, we will post our review of that book.
And
I hope we like it more.
I know. I haven't even read like the synopsis, the back cover, or anything of it yet. So just what you've told me, that it's a historical fiction. So anyway.
And then, as we mentioned last weekend, we were at the Stitch West retreat hosted by Snug Harbor Crafts. We have posted our recap video for that. So if you haven't watched it and you want to, man, it's a hot mess, but oh my gosh, it was fun.
We had the best time.
As I was editing the video, I was laughing out loud.
Right.
I actually had to FaceTime Mom at one point while editing and screen share with her.
So I could watch it and laugh
so that she could laugh with me. Yeah. So it's a great time. And yeah, that's kind of it for this video.
Yes, thank you for joining with us in the Basic Book Club. We do appreciate it. It has been fun for us, even though we didn't care for this book. It has been fun. It's been fun, the interaction and everything with everybody on the book club.
Well, and some of the ladies that we met at the retreat that had read the book ended up having a whole conversation about it while we were, evacuated from the hotel.
I know, I turned over to Jorden. I'm like, both of them read it, and I just introduced them, and then they were able to talk about it.
It was really fun that, it's bringing people together.
It's the whole point is book clubs and and different point of views, because we didn't care for this one, but somebody else might.
I mean, obviously other people did. It's rated 4 stars on Goodreads.
That's true.
Anyway, so thank you for watching. We'll see you again before our next book club video, but for the book club, we will see you again at the end of November.
Yes.
Talking about The Keeper of Happy Endings. And until then, my Instagram is JordanXStitch.
And my Instagram is JamiXStitch.
And happy stitching and happy reading.
Bye.